Hey guys, and good morning. How are you today? I am pretty well. I am a little bit wired because I woke up so early for my standards. Like so early, it's ridiculous. So yeah, I just realized that I can't actually hear the music, so perhaps my headphones aren't on. Okay, so I just reconnected my headphones, which were not connected to my computer for some reason. But anyway, so how are you guys today? I am, as you can see, wearing some real clothes for once because today I had some, I had a blood test to do this morning. So I literally went to the doctor's at 7:30 in the morning, which is definitely not the time of day where I usually wake up. And I think I slept about 4 hours. It's just I have one of those sleep schedules where I go to bed really late and I wake up not really late, but around 8, half 8. So I had to wake up at 6:30, and it wasn't fun. But anyway, I hope that you're having a good morning or evening or night according to the area in the world where you live. And I am going to get started immediately because I want to basically put 2 days into one, because I'm still kind of trying to catch up a little bit here from last week where I skipped 2 days. So today, even though it's Tuesday, I'm actually starting with the first day of the environment week that you can see here. So I'm gonna do day 14 and day 15, and then I'll be all caught up. So day 14 is to draw 5 cubes with 1 point perspective and then 1 object in my room. And day 15, which should be today, is drawing 5 cubes with 2 point perspective and then draw 3 objects in your room. So I'm gonna be starting with the perspective exercises, which are boring as fuck, but they are kind of important. So here we go. So, I mean, you could be turning on the perspective grid on Procreate or on Photoshop, whatever, but that will kind of defy the point of this exercise to do it yourself. So instead, I am just gonna be creating my own. So I need to draw 5, therefore I'm going to draw 5 with like a couple different perspective points. Just choosing my brush. Oh, good morning, Light One. How are you? So I'm not even joking, but until very recently, like a few years ago, I didn't really know how to draw perspective. It's one of those things that, because I'm a self-taught artist, nobody ever sat me down and told me, that's how you do it. So I just kind of, did everything approximately. So 1 point perspective is when you have just one vanishing point in at the horizon. So you have your horizon line, which is always a horizontal line basically, and then you can place what we call a vanishing point, so like a little dot on the horizon. That's your V1, your vanishing point. And if you're doing just 1 point perspective, it means that you only have one, so you don't really need to specify it. That's the vanishing point number 1. And then from there, you basically start tracing many lines, which are basically your all the lines that are converging towards that vanishing point. And the way I'm doing it here is that on Photoshop, you can draw straight lines, even if they're not horizontal or vertical, by pressing 1 point on the screen or on your tablet, then keeping Shift selected, and then pressing just another point anywhere else on the canvas. And the more you press, the more it will come out kind of strongly, basically. There you go. So now that I have all these lines, you're gonna be wondering like, what does it mean? Basically, if you just trace some very light horizontal lines, you'll see that you're starting to develop kind of like a perspective grid, you know, like a plane, like two planes actually. And inside these planes, that's where you'll have your cubes. So the reason why we're drawing cubes is because they are, you know, easy and just kind of like the basic thing to draw. But you could be drawing anything. You can draw, you know, other basic geometric shapes. You could be drawing triangles, well, pyramids if they are 3D. You could be drawing people, but people are kind of like the next step. So let's start with cubes. So for example, you start by drawing just a simple cube, like anywhere really, anywhere you want. And you just draw the front face first. And then if you join those corners to the vanishing point, there you go, you'll find how this cube relates to that vanishing point, right? So then you just go back a little bit. The exact amount is basically the amount that this cube is large, you know, and because it's a cube, it's like, I mean, it's not really exactly the same on every side of the cube because I haven't done it like very precisely. More than a cube is like a cuboid, you know, basically it's not a perfect, like all the sides are the same kind of cube. But anyway, so here, that's where this cube has its back side, basically its back corner. And of course, you can't really see these sides of the cube because I mean, if the cube was like completely transparent, then you could see this side, but you know, usually you wouldn't be able to. And so you can see this side of the cube, like this side here, this side here, this side here, and this side here. There you go. So that's cube number one. And of course, as well, here, you wouldn't really be able to see it. I was a little bit imprecise here. There you go. This is where it should get to. There we go. Here's cube number one. Also, like one says, not to be a party pooper, but my coincidence, I also had a test today. Test was positive, which is why I can watch you now in morning on work day at home. I hope you get better results with your test. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry to hear you're like positive. But I hope that you're not actually feeling sick. Like I hope that it's asymptomatic. And yeah, my test had nothing to do with COVID. I'm just doing some thyroid tests, basically. The thyroid is the organ that basically directs all of your hormones in your body. And recently I felt a lot of mood swings and stuff. I've been talking about it on my Instagram as well. And my patrons know I've been having like a lot of mood swings basically over January. And as much as probably it's just basically mental health stuff due to holidays, and you know, like the holidays are a horrendous time of year if you have mental health issues. But I just thought, you know, why not? Let's check it. Maybe I have an hormonal imbalance. Who knows? I'll find out in 2 days. And Mano, hey, good morning, sketching in perspective. After just waking up like 15 minutes ago, it's a really good exercise. Yay! It's like a cup of coffee for your soul. But yeah, I hope that, you know, there's nothing that you're actually feeling, you know, sick in terms of the COVID symptoms, like one. Yeah, so I'm gonna just be drawing another cuboid over here. So again, just connecting. I mean, I'm not being the most precise, you know, in terms of the size of these cuboids and stuff, so go. Number 2. Let's draw another one, maybe over here. Just a cough and noise run the whole day of wondering what to do today. Just, you know, you can read a book. I loved to be sick from school when I was a kid. I mean, I know that you work, you don't go to school, but right now, because I'm a freelancing artist, I basically, I don't get paid if I don't work. So for me right now, being sick is not great. Like, I don't have anybody who can give me like a sick day, you know, I can just not get paid. So that's not particularly good. Therefore, being sick is not really very nice for me anymore. But when I was a kid and I could just, you know, not go to school and kind of like just hang out at home, I loved it because I would just spend the whole day either reading or watching TV, which for me was pretty great because my parents were really strict, and therefore I wasn't allowed to watch TV during the week, like during the studying week, you know. And so because when I was sick, they usually weren't at home, like I would just be at home on my own or just with my grandma or something, I could watch TV during the day, and that was like, wow. Okay, so now I'm going to change the perspective a little bit, and you can do that by just simply change the height of your horizon line. So if your horizon line is, say that like this is the kind of like your canvas basically, and this is your horizon line, then your vanishing point is over here, and as you can see, it means that you have a lot more room underneath the horizon line. And less room above it. So it looks as though you're kind of like lower down in comparison to the horizon. So I'm gonna be drawing 2 more cuboids. One is this one. No, that was number 4. There you go. And for example, if you do a cuboid that is higher than the horizon line but also lower, it means that it's a pretty tall building or whatever, you know. So I'm gonna be doing it here, and it basically just means that you're gonna have one part of the cuboid that is going upwards in comparison to the horizon line, and one part that is going downwards. There you go. So you basically only see 2 faces of this cuboid. And there we go. Oh yeah. So today it's day 14. I'm gonna save it as practice day 14. There you go. Okay, so this is the 1-point perspective. And now let's go with the 2-point perspective. So 2-point perspective is slightly more complicated, but really isn't really that much complicated. Again, if this is your canvas and you have your horizon line like before, same thing as before. The only difference is that you have 2 points, like 2 vanishing points, V1 and V2 on the horizon. And the grid that you're gonna get, the perspective grid, is given by the like the crossing of 2 different, of all the basically all the lines that are created by the crossing of these vanishing points, basically. And while one vanishing point is good for certain situations, like for example, if you're doing a background of a street and you are like taking a picture of the street like straight on, then you can have a one point perspective. But if you're doing for example a more kind of like panoramic background, like landscape background, then 2 point perspective is a little bit better in terms of, because when you're doing 1 point perspective you always have the cuboid like facing you, whilst with 2 point perspective you can have the cube kind of like standing at an angle in comparison to you, and then it kind of develops to vanishing line towards the horizon, right? So let's see, I'm going to be drawing a few in this grid. So for example here, if I'm using already this grid, there you go. I mean, you wouldn't obviously see these sides. There you go. So this would be my cuboid, number 1. Now, let's do another one. This one can be a little bit like flatter, maybe, a little bit shorter. Like this. And as you can see, you just need to trace a line that goes directly towards the vanishing point, and you'll be able to put all your cuboids in perspective. And there you go. So that's number 2. We can do one in the sky. And there you go. As you can see, the more you go away. Hi Lukia! I know, perspective is the nemesis of us all, I think. I haven't met a single person who likes to do perspective exercises, to be honest. But yeah, basically here, as you can see, the farther, like the lower and higher you go away from the horizon line, then of course the perspective will be more exaggerated. And sometimes, you know, when you're drawing maybe like in a cartoony style, you can even exaggerate the perspective more just for the sake of, you know, design, humorous effect, you know, all that. Also, whenever you draw a background, I think after a certain time that you've been practicing backgrounds and stuff, you kind of stop doing the grid and you just use intuitive perspective. That is basically, you just kind of know what the perspective would look like, for example, if you're drawing a background with like a street full of houses and stuff. But at the start, it's pretty good to, you know, to just kind of have the basic idea of what perspective looks like. So I've also changed here my horizon line. I'm putting the vanishing points rather far out. And the horizon line is very low, which gives us this impression that we are standing pretty tall, like that we're pretty tall in comparison to the like the background, you know, the set where we're standing in. Okay, so for example, if we're drawing like some buildings, they are very you can see they're very exaggerated. Like here, for example, the this line over here, this side of the building is super extreme, the perspective over here. And let's do another one on this side. This one as well is pretty exaggerated, but not as much. And there we go. So we have number 4 and number 5. Okay, so we have done the 1-point perspective, the 2-point perspective, and so we can move on to more fun things to do. So the second exercise for today is to draw 1 object in your room from yesterday and 3 objects in my room for today. And because 4 objects is probably a little too much, because I have to start doing some work after I'm done with this, I'm going to maybe draw 2. It's like it's some compromise, basically. So the first thing that I'm gonna draw is just something that I found right now on my desk, which is this. It's like a tin with some candies inside. So yeah, so I'm gonna draw this because I don't have other objects right now in front of me apart from my mic, which I probably shouldn't have moved because it's probably made a lot of noise. I'm sorry, I apologize. I also have my sketchbook, but it's kind of boring because it's just all black, so yeah. Let's start with this tin of candies. And as I was saying before, I want to try and do basically objects with the Lasso tool, like not starting with a sketching base, which is, you know, very much out of my comfort zone. So let's see how it goes. So the Lasso Tool, if you're using Photoshop, it's L is the shortcut, and I'm going to be I am really good with this Lasso Tool thing. So yeah, so I'm going to be using the Lasso Tool for the base shape, and then I'm going to be using this set of brushes, the Kyle Gouache Mini, which basically because I wanted to do this kind of speed painting sort of vibe and not do any sketching, as I was saying, but just go straight into painting already on the shape. So I'm gonna start by choosing this Gouache Blair paint brush to refine the shape. Okay, and for the eraser, I'm using the rough eraser, always from the same brush set, the Kai Webster brush set Gouache Mini, which is available for free if you have Photoshop and you just go on Adobe's website. You can find it for free over there. Okay, so this method, obviously, especially when you do speed painting, it's more about just trying to give the idea of what you're drawing, like a very quick impression, rather than going for like loads of detail and accuracy, which is why it's one of those techniques that is used especially in concept art. And to be fair, I used to do this a lot more often when I was working for my video game studio, because I was doing a lot more concept art and less kind of finished product drawings. But now that it's been a couple of years since COVID, that I've almost solely done illustration work, and so I'm now more used to working with sketching lines and, you know, trying to put more details and render into things. So yeah, this is my basic shape, I think. And then I'm going to create a new layer on top and create a clipping mask so that whatever I draw on top of this is going to stay within the boundaries of the object that I've already created, but I can, you know, I can define it better. So I'm going to be taking a slightly darker color and do these little bits around the shape of the box, of the tin, and then a lighter color because there's like a little bit of a glare, kind of like lighting reflection over here, and then it's got like a white sort of, it's kind of hard because I'm drawing it in a different perspective than I'm actually seeing it on my desk. So yeah, it's kind of hard to realize like what it would look like if it actually was in this position. But whatever, I've already started this way, so I'm gonna go. Okay, and then it's got like the shape of the mints inside and the name of the brand, which I am not actually drawing because, well, no. And they are ginger mints, so they've got these ginger bits to the side. It's very interesting because whenever I color, I use the layer method to color things with the, you know, with different layers and different blending settings to give the impression of multiply and overlay, you know, to give the impression of lighting and shading. So instead, trying to pick my own colors to actually basically just do everything as if you were painting in real life, you know, when you don't have blending layers, you just have to choose colors from color theory and see how they react with each other. It's definitely a new experience for me, because I never really have to rely on my own eye. I can just develop a palette and then figure out, like, let my blending settings figure out what the color would look like if they were, you know, used. So yeah, I mean, there's like the name of the type of mint. I mean, I kind of think that maybe this should be a little bit lower. More like this, maybe. This is honestly like so much out of my comfort zone. It must look like really silly because it's literally just a mint tin. But for me, this is a lot harder than drawing, you know, a character in a difficult dynamic position, because it's just one of those things I never really do. Drawing objects especially is like definitely not my strong suit. And then I've got some slightly darker greens, like around here, mixed with some magentas. Okay. So I'm just gonna merge it down, and then I'm just quickly gonna create couple more multiply and overlay layers to give it more of a... So the multiply layer is the one for the shading, and I'm gonna draw it maybe with like a different gouache paint brush, like, I don't know. I haven't tried any of these, so it's very much new for me. So even though I'm trying to do the shading and lighting inside the speed paint with actual color, with the actual, you know, color theory, and trying to figure out by myself these kind of, you know, what color actually applies, I'm still gonna add some more of these shading and lighting, the cast shadows specifically, you know, the shadows that are basically the strong, like flat ones basically. I'm gonna add them with layer blending, just because that way I can just put them on top of all the flat colors underneath, and that is a little bit easier and a little bit faster. And you know, the point here is to also become a little bit faster drawing objects and environments. So then I'm gonna add a new layer, create a clip-in mask, and this time overlay. lower this slightly and maybe create another layer for the lighting. Put it on add or color dodge, it's kind of the same. And then I'm going to use this one just to add the very, very strong highlights. They are basically white. And these need to be very, very small, areas. Just tiny little highlights. And there you go. So this is my object number 1. I actually quite like it. I mean, I know that I am probably being too easy on myself, but it's the first time that I've drawn an object starting just with the lasso tool and not drawing, a sketch. So that's pretty good for my, for my standards. I'm going to take another object, something that I've got over here, maybe. I had to move away because I didn't have any other objects around me. So I'm going to draw this object, which is a thing for steam, a steamer. It's not like to cook, obviously. It's like to have like steam, you put water in and then steam comes out. Can't remember what's it called, but anyway, I'm going to draw it. So I'm just going to put it over here. Over here so that I can look at it in perspective. Okay. So the base color is probably like a very light brown. Oh, thank you, light one. Can I say I love the vibe of the new studio? The walls have such a lovely color. Thank you. It did take me a while to finish it, obviously, but I'm quite happy with the result. So yeah, I am aware that this does not look anything like the object that I was supposed to be painting, but there you go. I'm sure that I can rectify the situation in no time. Now it looks a little bit like a pumpkin, so that's also great, I guess. Yeah, I need to definitely refine the shape. So it took me a long time to choose the style of the studio, mostly because I had one idea in mind when I started, and then I realized that it probably wasn't gonna work out, like in terms of its actual like practicality. So I wanted to have the main desk in the very front, like in the very center of the room, but I then realized that that was probably a bad idea because I would have like a lot less space all around. So I decided to cut that idea and start with a new one. which was this one that I came up with in the end, which was to have kind of like two stations. So this one where I do, you know, all my actual work with my Cintiq, and then the one over there where it's more like for videos and doing all the traditional art stuff. And I've actually filmed a video of my kind of like the making of my studio, but I still haven't been able to finish editing it and posting it on YouTube, but it will be there. Yeah, a humidifier! Thank you, Mano. This is the name for this thing, the humidifier. I didn't know the name. I don't know. The more time I spend in Italy, living back here, the more I realize that my English is going to shit. And very soon, I'm sure that I'm not going to be able to speak it at all. And then I will have to do all my live stream and my videos in Italian. And yeah. I mean, I don't think that will actually happen. I think even though probably my vocabulary is not as good as it used to be, I'm still probably going to be able to speak in English like forever, I guess. I mean, I have spoken it for a long time, so I don't think that sort of goes away, especially considering that I do practice it every day during work and you know, in like all the stuff that I read and watch, it's in English, so I don't think that would go away, but you never know. I mean, if I just stop speaking it for, you know, for unknown reason, then maybe I would forget it. Thank you, Lat1, for saying that you would watch me even if I spoke in Italian. You know, it would be probably pretty boring, not understanding, you know, what I'm saying. But I appreciate the gesture of saying it. Okay, I'm trying to just refine this shape a little more. And then I'm going to maybe this is slightly too dark in terms of the shade that it's creating, but whatever. Just trying to, you know, follow the kind of shadows that I see. This is a very new process and workflow for me, that's for sure. Lucia says, English is not my base language, but you're a great level, I think. I would like to be able to speak as well. Thank you. Well, I did live for 6 years in English-speaking countries. I lived in London for a long time, and then I went to live in Asia, but I was still teaching English there and hanging out mostly with you know, English speaking people, even if they were in English or, you know, British or you know, any other kind of like Anglophone countries. They were still like English teachers, so, and we were all from different countries, so we all spoke in English to each other. Mano says, I have a small one on my desk. I used to dispense essential oils from time to time. Yeah, same here. I got it mostly because my previous apartment was super duper dry, and so I was doing it, like I was using it almost every day. And this apartment is actually okay in terms of humidity, so I don't really need it as much, but I just like to have it on sometimes because of the nice smell that it dispenses. Okay, so it still looks like a pumpkin in my opinion, but I'm just gonna roll with it, whatever. It's just the first day, you know, it's the first day, it's fine. It's fine. I'm gonna create a new layer, clip in mask, and I'm going to turn it onto multiply and add some, like, I'm trying to give some sort of impression of wood, like the texture that this thing has got. So let's see if it works. Probably gonna use a different brush. Don't worry if it looks as though it's super crap right now. I'm sure that it's gonna look better when I'm finished. Now it kind of looks a little bit like a tiger pumpkin. So I don't know if that's like better than before. That's an improvement on the pumpkin situation. Okay, so if you lower the opacity, it's kind of starting to look a little bit more like something, at least. Just gonna try one layer of overlay. Maybe overlay is too saturated, maybe soft light is better. Okay, maybe one other multiply layer, but like slightly darker. See how it goes. Trying to work in some sort of feeling of wood, like the knots of the wood. Yeah, I decided that this is okay. So then on top of everything, I'm gonna do one layer of shading. Bye, Lucia. Don't worry. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Okay. So that was the layer of shading. Just lowering the opacity slightly. And then one layer of lighting, overlay. Trying to make the lighting and the shading a little bit more flat, of course, which is a stylization, and you know that's not what happens in the real world, so that's why I'm kind of fiddling with it a little bit. Yeah, this is fine. And then I'm just gonna add one more layer of highlight. I decided that I'm done. So that was object number 2. There you go. So yeah, I mean, it wasn't too bad. It wasn't too scary, I think. So tomorrow I've got Wednesday, day 16. Draw 5 cubes with 3-point perspective, which, you know, things are starting to get interesting. And draw your room in isometric view. Okay, so I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do the actual, you know, whole room thing, because that is a lot to draw. I don't know what I was thinking when I actually created this challenge, but I'll try and draw at least like one side of the room. So yeah, I'm gonna see you guys tomorrow. Thank you for watching. It was really nice, and I hope you had fun too. And see you tomorrow. Tomorrow evening for me, so tomorrow 9 p.m. Central Europe time, which I don't know what would be in your time, but you'll figure it out. You're big boys and girls, I'm sure. So I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you. Bye bye.